Okay, so I am joined by the incredible Matt Bigland of a band that I find so painfully underrated, and I'm also so glad are actually back on the scene. It is Dinosaur Pile-Up.
Oh yeah,
And the new album is due, I think, 22nd of August. I Felt Better.
yeah, that's correct. So soon now, can't believe it.
It has snuck up. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've just
Yeah,
come off like doing all these festivals and all of this, and now there's more coming my way. I'm always happy when
yeah,
that happens.
yeah. No, I'm stoked. It's been such a long journey for this one. Obviously, sort of past couple of years have been kind of all over the place. So finally, it's suddenly like, wow, we're 2 weeks away or whatever it is. Can't believe it.
It's absolutely amazing. Now, I want to start off with the single that's just recently dropped, "Love Is the Worst." Now,
So
this is quite a raw, emotionally charged track. Can you sort of talk me
yeah.
through the moment you decided to sort of turn what I've read is quite a painful breakup and an experience into something that is quite an anthem, in fact? And
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that taught me through it essentially. Honestly, I really was
Um,
digging the song when I was listening to it as well.
oh, great, man. Yeah, no, I'm glad. I think Love's the Worst is like, obviously you never really like when you write a song, you never, I mean, I guess that's not true. I was gonna say you don't intend to write a song. But like sometimes you do intend to write a song. But what I mean is you can't really control the thought that comes out of you. I sometimes like describe when you think of an idea for a song, it's like you've been given it rather than you've created it. Like, because it just pops up in your head, and obviously, yeah, you have created that, but it often feels like it just is given to you. And I've heard a few writers sort of describe it like that before. And Love's the Worst is a classic one of them. And I think why, as a song, it feels so great is because it's such a genuine um, emotional response, I guess. I can remember I had a songwriting session with an acquaintance who I already had met briefly in America. I was out on a tour. I can't remember what tour I was on. Maybe I was Shinedown actually. But anyway, this someone I sort of had a connection to, Scott Stevens. He came to that show and he met me and we said hey and we hung out a bit. And he's a brilliant songwriter. And he said eventually when you go back to the UK, let's just hang out and like write over Zoom. And that's what we did. But before a week before that session, I had this horrible breakup experience, and it was fucking horrible. Being cheated on, or figuring out that you've been cheated on is never nice. It just is so horrible. And it's not like I wasn't in love, like it wasn't true love, so it wasn't like a life ending experience, but it was still a difficult experience emotionally to be like, oh fuck, like that just happened. And that happened, and then however many days it was later, I went into this session with Scott, and it was a really like interesting uh day, I guess, because at that point Scott and I were acquaintances, and this was our first meeting where we were literally jumping on a call like you and I are now, and we're meant to be writing a song, or at least trying to write something. And I jump on the phone with Scott, and he's like, "Hey man, like how are you?" And I just sort of couldn't like couldn't dress it up, and I was like, "I'm fucking terrible, and like this has just happened, and like I'm going through this thing, and I'm fucking, I'm not a drinker." And I was drinking a bottle of wine a night just to fucking be able to go to sleep and not think about this horrible thing. Like I just couldn't get away from it. It was really horrible. And me and Scott just fucking we just literally talked about it for like 2 hours, like essentially strangers. But obviously we got on really well immediately, and we just talked about this thing. And now Scott's one of my dearest friends, actually. And we didn't do a whole lot of writing, and I wasn't really in a headspace to do a whole lot of writing. And we talked about this whole thing for fucking 2 hours or whatever it was. And at the end of that 2 hours, I sort of summarized the whole conversation and I really meant it. And I was like, just like, it just came out of me. Love's the fucking worst. I was so like angry. I was so angry and like so hurt and betrayed. And I was like, ah, like love is the fucking worst. And Scott immediately was like, love's the fucking, and just sang it back. And we were like, oh shit. And then we immediately dived into the writing of the song. So I feel like the song feels really good because it came from such a genuine place. Like I was really, really hurt and it fucking sucked. And the only way I could articulate myself was just to say that. And that became like the central part of the song and the hook of the whole song. So don't know, it feels good. So it's really nice when like a song comes out and it's 100% authentic. Like that is how I felt in that moment exactly. Um, so yeah, it's it was a shitty situation. I've had worse situations happen in my life, so it's not like it was gonna fucking kill me or anything. But it was a very difficult situation, and heartbreak is a horrible, horrible thing to like. When you're heartbroken like that, it's horrible. So feels good to have like created something relatable or real out of it.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely relatable because when I read about the song, heard the song, and I was like, yeah, I can relate to that. Love is the worst.
Right, yeah,
And
it can be.
my fiance's there going, really? You think that? I was like, no, not in this context. Come on, like we're engaged, not
Right,
not like that. But
totally.
it is quite it's very relatable. But the catalyst for the track, it does sound that there was a serious, a series of quite horrible emotional gut punches. I mean, it was, I understand it was the breakup, it was your birthday, and we were in lockdown. Thinking about lockdown, and they're going, it was last year. No, it was almost 5 years ago. It's quite scary now.
No, that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But how did these sort of gut punches help you shape the tune into what it became? I think there's a potential you answered that in that huge response you gave me
Yeah,
before, but
yes, sorry if that
no,
was too long.
no.
I really dressed it up.
No,
Um
no, I love it when that happens because there's me going, yep, that's how do I keep these interviews going? And
yeah, right,
it's
right.
gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's funny the journey of that song because in that initial session with Scott and I, and then the subsequent 2 weeks or whatever, when all we were thinking about was that song and how to craft it, it ended up with the original version of it had a completely different verse and structure, like literally a absolutely completely different verse, and it was telling it a sort of the same story but in a very, very different way. And just before we were kind of wrapping up the album, it still was in that original form, and that original form just didn't feel right to me at all. And it hadn't for the past couple of years, whilst that song had been sat on a hard drive and we were getting ready for the album or whatever, to a point where I'd categorically decided it wasn't for me. And I was like, okay, I can't perform this song because it just doesn't feel right. Someone else has to perform it. And I had a number of artists in mind that I've really felt we should get the song to and perform, and they should perform it. And I went down that road and I chased that sort of idea, and it sort of hit multiple dead ends. So that's when I sort of turned it back on myself and I was like, okay, you're going to do it because I want this song to be released. But it doesn't feel right. So about 2 weeks before the album was finished, Love's the Worst wasn't even in the track listing anymore because I was so off it. And uh, myself and my engineer and who mixed the record as well, Mike Horner, who's fantastic, we listened to the whole what we'd cooked so far, and we also listened to the B-sides that hadn't made the cut in the same listening, and we listened to Love's the Worst and we were like, fuck, like that is so good. There's something about it that's just so real, but it's not what it should be, and it can't make the record like that. So literally from that moment, I immediately wrote a new verse for it. And then we had about a, 2 weeks left in studio max, not very much. So I wrote a verse for that. I took it home. I listened to it in the morning, which is something I always do to sort of get perspective on it. It wasn't right. So I went back to studio, wrote another verse that day, went home, listened to it in the morning, wasn't right. Went back to studio, wrote another verse. And that third verse, well, actually, half of the second and half of the third, those two ideas, it told the story in a different way, which is the way that it's now cut and final. That sort of the verse that it has now is what those latter verses were, and it sort of just felt right, and it told the story in a more literal and straight up way. Basically, you know, you were cheating and that's horrible and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But it was funny because like those experiences of like being in lockdown sucks, getting broken up with sucks, it being your birthday isn't important, but also sort of sucks. And then realizing a week later that you'd have actually been being cheated on for weeks on end, whatever. All of it was like accumulated into this shitty, horrible vibe. And it's funny how like I articulated it in different, you know, four different ways, and eventually that the last way that I thought of became the right way because it just said it in its most simple terms. Um, yeah, I hope I answered the question.
No,
I
you
might have
did.
got off.
No, you're like me. You tend to go off on tangents, which I absolutely love. It stokes conversation, which is the best thing.
Yeah,
But
man.
what I can say is, I'm so grateful it actually made the cut. Obviously, I've not heard the full album yet, which I can't wait to do.
Yeah.
But that so far, this one really is my favorite. It's the one that
Oh,
I
great.
suppose it spoke to me a little bit more than, but
Yeah.
all of them are great. But yeah, um, but there is sort of a, as I understand it, a reoccurring element throughout this album of empowerment. How did that sort of mindset come to be when you were writing this record as a band?
Well, well, first things first, we didn't really write as a band. I don't actually write anything as a band. I always write
Okay,
on my own.
right.
Um,
Sorry.
no, it's absolutely fine. It's funny that like we are a band. That's why it's a weird situation. Like Dinosaur's really unique in that way. Like we are a band. It's just the creative output comes from from a soul, you know, from
Yeah.
me, I guess. And I think that's um quite a weird way of working, but that's just how we've always done it. I spend a lot of time on my own writing, and occasionally I'll write with obviously someone like Scott, but I don't really do that very often. And otherwise it's just me in this room actually, just fucking overthinking everything and writing writing songs. um but I think the sense of empowerment becomes like it comes from the fact that this album was largely written from my experience of struggle that I'd had health wise, at least. Well, not even just health wise, definitely health wise, but also mental health wise and societally and blah blah blah. I just was fucking not digging anything, and the whole album is written from that perspective. I mean that's not entirely true as well because obviously there's some highs in the album emotionally as well. There's songs about falling in love, songs about meeting the person that you want to be with forever. Like they're huge emotional highs. But there was also a lot of obviously I was really struggling health wise, so a lot of the songs were written about that. You know, we were in lockdown. Society was unveiling itself as kind of a piece of shit, and racism was rife, and all of this stuff. We were all seeing it on Instagram, and that was fucked up because it was like that was just fucked up, but also it was fucked up the fact that we were all consuming that through Instagram next to adverts for fucking clothes and do you know what I mean? Like sometimes
Yeah.
the
God, yeah.
Instagram, do you know what I mean? The Instagram feed can just be so fucking grotesque because it's like you're seeing some fucking poor malnourished kid in Gaza. You're seeing fucking supermodels. You're seeing Kim Kardashian. You're seeing George Floyd with a policeman's knee on his neck. Do you know what I mean? It's like this constant mix of the most brutal shit and the most vapid, like vacant stuff. And I sometimes find that really, really difficult to comprehend and like deal with. So that found its way into the album on like tracks like I Felt Better. The title track is largely about that. And I think, to come back to your question, the feeling of empowerment, I feel like, definitely from the health perspective, there was so much to kind of get through experientially to write this record. It feels like it feels like it was a test of like my resilience and strength. And in the end, the record got made and I survived all that crap and sort of found a way to understand the mental health perspective of it and all and stuff like that. So I think it is quite an empowered record, because all of that stuff was pretty bad, but it's ended up creating this pretty strong and awesome record, I think.
Well, so far what I've heard, it is quite awesome. So I'm going to stroke your ego a little bit more on that. It is. Excuse me. Now, excuse me. You did touch on the, the health issues, the mental health issues. I'm going to sort of rephrase this question because you answered part of it previously.
Okay.
You've sort of come out of the other end, stronger, more focused, and I suppose ready to tackle the world. You've sort of become a bit of a spokesperson for fans that have gone through similar things. I mean, how do you sort of react to that? Sort of being put on that pedestal in a weird kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is wild, and obviously I can only sort of judge it on my experience. And obviously, when I did start speaking about the health stuff, it was kind of crazy because, bless you, do you need water?
Oh yeah, no, it's all right. I'm gonna grab my squash now. Like,
Okay, squash. Gotta love a squash, though. By the way.
well, exactly. I could have lied and said it's red wine, but then everyone that knows I've given up drinking would call my BS on that. So
Yeah, right. Um, yeah, like when I posted about that stuff, I did get an influx of messages from people that could relate, and people that had gone through bad physical health, often the same conditions that I've got, bad mental health. Like, there was an outpouring of people that would just message and say, hey, like, I really heard that, and I've been through some shit, and I appreciate you talking about it and stuff. And that was kind of wild, actually. Something I didn't expect, hadn't even considered, that I might get that response. I didn't actually consider the response at all. I just wanted to put my story out, because obviously when I was in hospital, I just dropped off the internet completely, and eventually I felt like I had to explain why. Because people started to message us saying, had we broken up? And I was like, no, we haven't. I'm just, you know, I'm going through some shit that is outside of the, hey, look at me, I'm on Instagram world. So I felt like I had to sort of speak up to that. And then obviously when we did come back to bring the record out and start doing singles and stuff, I felt like I owed it to the fan base to explain exactly what had happened, because to them it seemed like we'd just stopped and disappeared and then randomly reappeared with new music or whatever. But in my life, something hugely significant had happened, which so easily could have ended the band, because I was so fucking like on the edge with everything. I was like, fuck it, fuck everything. I'll just, just try and be healthy, get a job, and just be a person and not have to deal with anxiety and explaining myself and stuff like that. But I'm glad I did in the end, even though it was a lot to do it, because the reaction from people was so genuine and so positive, and it sort of shocked me. It did shock me because our fan base, and even people that weren't in our fan base, it was such a genuine and sort of loving response. And it showed me sort of the community that Dinosaur has built. And I just was shocked at like how wholesome and overwhelmingly positive it was. And it sort of, yeah, it sort of made me glad that I'd explained everything, because it's just like a special group of people that have sort of, you know, attached themselves to the band, and yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, it did bring a tear to my eye just hearing that in a weird kind of way. And I think it's important for people to speak out. Us as guys, it doesn't get spoken about as much as it should, but we are getting better. So you're a trailblazer, sir. You're making it easy for the rest of us to do so.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's funny. Vulnerability and you know, sort of feels like there was definitely a moment where I sort of caught myself before posting all that. Definitely said to Karen, my wife, like, am I doing this? Because it was that feeling of like, I don't know, just before you step off the edge into a cold swimming pool or the ocean, or step off the edge of a cliff into a pool, 100 meters down or whatever. Like, it felt like, oh fuck, am I doing this? And it's uncomfortable before you've hit the water, and then you hit the water and you're like, oh, it's fine. But like there was that period of time or that moment before, and you're just about to bear your fucking your vulnerabilities and just be vulnerable to the internet, or also to people's perceptions of you, and that feels fucking, yeah, pretty intense sometimes. But I agree, like, guys should be okay with that. It's ridiculous that we're not really. So yeah, glad I did it.
So, and we're glad you did it as well. Now, let's go for something a little less intense. You are
Yeah,
about to head out on tour, starting off in good old Blighty here in the UK, but you're
yeah,
also heading out to the US with the Data Remember and Yellow Card. Now,
yeah.
what are you most looking forward to about actually being back out there on the road and playing to these crowds? And also, there's only one right answer here as well. Who does it better, us or the Yanks?
It's definitely us, isn't it?
Exactly.
uh yeah, man, it's exciting to have that all lined up, and be doing it again. um the thing I'm most excited about is just making that connection with, well, making that connection with fans and with people. Obviously in the UK it's our own headline run, so it feels nice because it's like making a connection with our fans who love us, and we love them. So it's like, and honestly, the sort of the culture that we seem to have accidentally cultivated or curated or whatever with the dinosaur fans is such a wholesome connection. So more than ever, I get very nervous before shows and tours. I get quite anxious about it. I'm terrified of letting people down. I'm terrified of not being what they expect me to be. I'm, not being good enough. I've imposter syndrome all the time. But obviously, I can only do what I do, what I am. Usually that feeling is sort of a bit overwhelming, but with this tour particularly, and I wonder if it's because of what we just talked about, and I've leveled with everybody and we've been through a lot and it's all out there. It does feel like we're coming back to just say hey, for almost like a family reunion or something. It's weird, and it feels good. Um, so with the UK, it's that feeling. So that's why I'm so excited about getting out there. With the US, I'm excited for a slightly different reason. Like obviously there's hardcore old school dinosaur fans out there, but obviously we're supporting Data Remember and Yellow Card. So it's their crowd. So it's gonna be a different group of people seeing us. And that's exciting for a different reason, because it's like you get to just like turn up, introduce yourself, play some cool songs, and go. and it's like it's like a first meeting, I guess. And particularly with those big American tours, they're fun. Obviously, they're exhausting and stuff like that. It's a fun experience. What's cool about them is when you're supporting bigger bands like that, it's half an hour that you're on stage. So it really is like turn up, say hey, play 7 rippers that you fucking love playing, and then you're off. And that's fun sometimes. Like I like that. I like that energy. Um, so yeah, it's I'm excited about all of it. It's gonna be fun.
Cool. So, one final question. Where would you love to bring the I Felt Better tour in the world? Which
Oh wow.
country or city would you love to head to and tour?
That's a good question. There's two I should say areas, not places. One, we've been lucky enough to tour in Japan a bit before in the previous years, and I just absolutely love going to Japan. All of us love Japanese food. Um, like we love the culture out there. We love the food. The crowds are amazing. So, you know, we played Summer Sonic Festival a number of times, and it's just such a vibe. So I would love to have the opportunity to take Dinosaur out there for this tour, but also getting into South America a bit. We've a long time ago we were lucky enough to play. We did Mexico City, played a few shows out there, but apart from that, we haven't been able to get back. And I would love, love, love to be able to get in South America a bit. Get to Brazil. I'd love to get to Brazil. Um, get back to Mexico City, maybe. So yeah, I'd love to get into South America, but who
Cool.
knows?
Those would be two good tours that I would wish I could go to, but I don't know if I'll make it. But if one day, you never know. You get back there, I'll get there. It'll be an absolute dream.
Hell
Matt,
yeah, man.
I want to thank you so much for joining me today and,
Of course.
talking about, some of the difficulties you've had. I appreciate that can be challenging. So it
Yeah.
is empowering to hear it, and it helps people show a willingness to talk about it further. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important. Thank you so much. The album I Felt Better is out in just a couple of weeks, 22nd of August at the time of this recording. So
Hell
I
yeah.
can't wait. Matt, thank you so much, my friend. You have a
Thanks so
great
much,
day.
Damian. Thanks so much,
Cheers,
man.
mate. Bye.